Hello and welcome to the crash course on APA paper formatting. I am Fotini Leventakou, the Senior Coordinator of Reference and Instruction Services at John Bailey Library, and at the bottom of your screen you may see my email fleventakou@acg.edu and my extension number 1434. You can use these to contact me in case you have any question about what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to start by saying a few things about what we're going to learn in this video. So by the end of this video, you will know the basic paper formatting guidelines of APA 7. And when I say APA 7, I mean the 7th edition of the APA publication manual. So everything you will hear today is based on this book. By the end of this video, you will also be able to format your APA paper properly. So let's begin. I'm going to start by saying a few things about what the APA style actually is so that we make sure we're all on the same page about this. So the APA style is the referencing style of the American Psychological Association. This is what APA actually stands for. It is a style which is used in the social sciences and in business. Recently here at our college, we have started using the APA style in the writing program courses as well. What you should know about the APA style is that it originated as a set of guidelines for preparing manuscripts to be submitted for publication in APA journals. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because this explains all the stylistic and mechanical details that we're going to discuss in a little while. APA 7 distinguishes between two types of papers. It distinguishes between the professional papers, which are papers written by scientists and submitted for publication to journals, and student papers, which are papers written by students and submitted to instructors. Today we will discuss both of these types of papers simply because depending on your course and depending on the instructor, you may be asked to follow either the first or the second type of paper. So you need to be aware of both of them. I'm going to start with the basic formatting rules of APA. These basic formatting rules apply both to professional and to student papers. So the basic formatting rules are the following. First of all, the margins of the page, and when I say margins, I mean the empty area at the top, bottom, left, and right of each page, should be 1 inch long. The line spacing of the text should be double. The alignment of the text should be on the left side of the page. And in APA papers, we use two types of indentation, one for the paragraphs and one for the references. The one we use for the paragraphs is called first line indentation, and we indent paragraphs by 1/2 inch. The indentation that we use in the references is called hanging indentation, and again we indent references by 1/2 inch. We will have the opportunity to see examples so that you understand what I mean by these basic formatting rules. When it comes to fonts and font sizes, the APA style has some preferences. So the preferred APA fonts are the ones that you currently see on your screen. Times New Roman size 12, Calibri, Arial, or Georgia size 11, Lucida Sans Unicode or Computer Modern size 10. You may select any of these 6 fonts and the respective font sizes and use it throughout the paper, from the beginning to the end. You cannot use 2 or 3 of them interchangeably. You select one and stick with this one for the entire paper. Now, let's check an example. This is half a page from an APA paper. As you can see, the top, left, right, and if we could see the bottom of the page, all of them are 1 inch long. Unfortunately, we cannot see the bottom of the page here because it wouldn't fit the slide. What else do we see here? We see that the spacing of the lines is double. We see that the alignment of the text is on the left side, whereas on the right side, the text is wavy. One exception to this is the title, but we will talk about titles separately later. And we also see that the paragraph is indented. This is what we mean by indentation. And specifically, paragraphs in the text in an APA paper are first line indented. This means that the first line of every paragraph is half an inch away from the margin, whereas the rest of the lines in the paragraph are close to the margin. If we move to the list of references, here we can see the opposite type of indentation, we could say. Here the references follow what we call hanging indentation, which means that the first line of every paragraph, of every reference, is close to the margin, whereas the rest of the lines within the same reference are half an inch away from the margin. This is what we call hanging indentation. As far as fonts and font sizes are concerned, as you can see, both pages are written using the same font and font size. In this case, I have used Calibri size 11. Now, let's move to something else. Let's move to the elements that are included in an APA paper. And let's also discuss the order in which they should appear. So APA papers have specific elements, specific parts. Okay, let's see what these are. First of all, a title page. Every APA paper has a title page. Second, an abstract. An abstract page is a page that contains the summary of the paper. The abstract page is only required in professional papers. Student papers do not need an abstract, unless, of course, your instructor requires one. Okay. Third element is the actual text. And fourth element is the list of references. These 4 elements, in the order in which we mentioned them, are what we call the mandatory elements of an APA paper. So, a professional paper has 4 mandatory elements: the title page, the abstract, the text, and the references. A student paper has 3 mandatory elements: the title page, the text, and the references. Apart from those, there are some additional elements which are optional. These are the footnotes, so a section where some supplementary notes may be included, a section with tables which include statistical data in most cases, a section with figures which may include photographs, images, charts, anything visual, and a section called an appendix or in plural appendices if we have multiple appendices. An appendix is a section where we include supplementary information which we consider important for the reader to know, but we cannot place it inside the text because this would disrupt the flow of the text. So numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8 in our list are what we call the optional elements, and they may be present or not either in a student or in a professional paper. All right. Now, I want to make a note regarding footnotes, tables, and figures. APA gives you an option. If you want to include footnotes, tables, or figures, you may either place them after the references in the order that we just mentioned, or alternatively, APA allows you to place them inside the text. My personal opinion is that footnotes, if you need to have some, are better off inside the text. It's easier to place them inside the text, whereas tables and figures would better be placed at the end after the references. But of course, this is something for you to decide. Now, we saw which elements are included in an APA paper. Let's see how we call these elements because each one of them has a different label. So what are these labels? I'm starting with the abstract page and leaving the title page aside because obviously the title page carries the title of the paper. Okay, so starting with the abstract page carries the label abstract. Then we move on to the next element, which is the text. The text carries the label as a label, actually, the title of the paper. So at the top of the text, we repeat the title of the paper. Then the list of references carries as a label the label references. The page with footnotes has the label footnotes, and the appendix has the label appendix. If we have more than one, then they will be called Appendix A, Appendix B, Appendix C, so they will be numbered with capital letters. In terms of formatting, these labels should be at the top line of the page in which they appear, they should be bold, and they should be centered, which means that they should look something like what we'll see right away. So this is the label abstract at the top of the abstract page. This is the actual title of the paper appearing as a label at the top of the text. This is the label references at the top of the list of references. The label footnotes at the top of the footnotes page, and the label appendix at the top of the appendix. I remind you that if this was a professional paper, all of these parts could be present. If this was a student paper, we would be missing the abstract page. Something else that we would be missing if this was a student paper is something called a running head. So what is a running head? A running head is this capitalized phrase that you can see at the top left of every single page. What is a running head? It is a shortened version of the paper's title. In our example here, the title of the paper is Comparison of Student Evaluations of Teaching with Online and Paper-Based Administration. This title has been shortened to Comparison of Student Evaluations of Teaching, and this short version of the title appears at the top left of all pages in capital letters. Okay, and exactly because it runs through every single page, it's called a running head. The running head is mandatory for professional papers, but it's not required in student papers. So if this was a student paper, we wouldn't have a running head. So this is the second difference between professional and student papers. The first one was the abstract, which is missing from student papers. The second one is the running head, which is also missing from student papers. Then I'm going to discuss a little bit the title page. The title page of a student and a professional paper have some common elements and some differences. I'm going to start with the common elements, the elements that are present to both, and then I'm going to move on to the differences. So both student and professional papers carry a page number at the top right of the page. Both of them carry a title, the title of the paper, the names of the authors or author, and of course, the institutional affiliation of the author, that is the institution where the author studies or where the author works. These are common to both types of papers. Now, let's see what different elements each one has. So a student paper title page will also include the course code and title, the name of the instructor to whom the paper is submitted, and the date when the paper is due. The professional paper title page, on the other hand, will additionally include the running head that we just talked about in the previous slide, as well as something called an author note, which actually is a section that provides additional information about the author. So let's have an example of a student paper title page. It will look something like this. Let me enlarge this a little bit so that you can better see it. What do we have here? We have page number 1 at the top right of the page. We have a few empty lines at the top. Usually 3 to 4 lines are enough, but it always depends on how lengthy the rest of the information on the page is. Then we have the title of the paper. As you can see, it appears in bold letters, and the first letter of every word, every major word, is capitalized. This means that we use title case capitalization. Then we have an empty line, the name of the author, which should appear in the following order: first name, in this case Oliver, middle initial, in this case B, last name, in this case Lee. Then we have the affiliation of the author, which comprises the department and the university. In this case, Department of Family and Community Health, University of Pennsylvania. Then we have the course number and the course title, the name of the instructor, in our case here, Dr. Priya C. Agarwal, and the due date appearing as month, day, year. Notice that all of this information is centered and it occupies the top half of the page. So you will never see this information down at the bottom of the page. It has to be at the top half. And let's also have a look at the professional paper title page. This is what it looks like. I'm going to enlarge this one as well. So I'm going to start with the common elements, the page number at the top right, the title of the paper in bold letters and title cased, an empty line, the name of the author. In this example, we have 3 authors, Kelly M. Lister Landman, Sarah E. Domoff, and Eric F. Dubow. They are separated with commas. Okay, and there is an end before the last author. Now, since we have 3 authors and each one has a different institutional affiliation, we will have to provide all institutional affiliations right below the names. And we need to make sure that the reader understands which affiliation accompanies which name. That's why we use superscript numbers next to each name and before each affiliation to clarify this. Now, apart from these common elements, as we said earlier, we have 2 additional elements which are only present in professional paper title pages, and these are the running head at the top left, in our case here, compulsive texting and academic functioning, and of course, at the bottom half of the page, the author note. Now, leaving title pages aside, let's move on to the next part, which is the abstract page. The abstract page includes the following. First of all, the label abstract. Second, the actual abstract, which is a paragraph of about 250 words. And the so-called keywords line, which is a line right after the abstract, which includes 3 to 5 key terms. What are these key terms? They are keywords that describe the main content of the paper. So an abstract page looks something like this. Obviously, this is not the entire page, but what do we see here? We see the label abstract at the top. We see the actual abstract, which, as we mentioned, actually we didn't mention it, I'm mentioning it right now. The abstract is the only paragraph which is not indented. And then we have the keywords line, which is indented. And it starts with the label keywords in italics. And then we have the actual keywords separated with commas. Now, the next thing we're going to discuss is the text. Now, when it comes to the actual text of the paper, what we usually do is we divide it into sections. And we do this first in order to organize our thoughts better. And second, in order to help the reader read the text more easily. Now, each one of these sections and subsections carries a title, a heading. These headings need to be formatted in a particular way. And what is this particular way? What you see in the table that you have on your screen right now. So let me briefly say what the formatting guidelines about headings are. All headings should be bold. Okay, every single heading in the text has to be bold. Also, all headings have to be title cased. All right, now, depending on the level of heading and subheading, and let me pause for a minute here and say that APA generally accepts 5 levels of heading and subheading. Depending on the level of headings and subheadings, we may have variations as to the way a heading should be presented. So all level 1 headings should be centered. All level 2 and level 3 headings should be aligned on the left side of the page. Level 3 headings should also be italicized. Level 4 and level 5 headings should be indented. They should look like paragraphs being part of the paragraph, and they should end with a period, a full stop. Level 5 headings should also be italicized. And then when it comes to the text following the headings, text that follows a level 1, a level 2, or a level 3 heading should start on a new line and be first line indented like a regular paragraph, whereas text that follows a level 4 or level 5 heading should appear right after the heading on the same line, right after the period. And I'm pretty sure you are all confused now. So let me clarify this with an example. What I have here on the left of the screen is the outline of a paper. Okay, this outline has 4 basic parts: comparison of student evaluations of teaching, method, results, and discussion. These are the big parts of the paper, and these headings are considered level 1 headings. Each one of them has subsections. So the first section has 3, the method section has another 3, the results section has another 3, and the discussion has just 1 subsection. Everything that is underlined with red are subsections of the previous section. That's why they are considered to be level 2 headings. Okay, and if we check down here at the bottom of the outline, under implications for practice, which is a level 2 heading, there are 2 subsections: improving SAT response rates and evaluating SAT scores. Since these are subsections of a level 2 section, they are considered level 3 headings. Okay. Now, I'm going to focus on this last part, which has 3 levels of headings and subheadings, and I'm going to show you how these would look like inside the text. So the actual page is on the right of your screen. The level 1 heading, discussion, will look like this on the page. It will be bold, centered, because it's a level 1 heading, and as we said earlier, the text that starts below it, actually the text following this heading starts on a new line. The level 2 heading, implications for practice, will look like this. It will be again bold, it will be aligned on the left of the page, and it will also be title cased as any other heading. And lastly, the level 3 heading, improving SAT response rates, will look like this. That is, it will be bold, it will be aligned on the left, it will be title cased, and the text following it will begin on a new line. Okay, this example does not include levels 4 and 5. Remember that not every paper will include all 5 levels. How many levels you will have will depend on the length of the paper and on the structure of the paper. Okay, the lengthier the paper, the more the levels of headings and subheadings you may have. Okay, and the more complicated the structure of the paper, the more the levels of headings and subheadings will be. Lastly, let's say a few things about tables and figures. An APA table looks something like what you see on the left of this screen, and an APA figure looks like what you see on the right. Tables and figures are labeled using the word table or figure plus a number. So at the top of every single table or figure, you should have the label table 1, table 2, table 3, figure 1, figure 2, figure 3, depending on how many figures you have. Apart from the label, which as you can see on the screen is bold and aligned on the left of the screen, tables and figures also carry titles. So each table and each figure should have a title at the top saying what is depicted in the table or in the figure. And this title should appear left aligned, in italics, and title cased. Lastly, even though it's not mandatory, frequently tables and figures are accompanied by notes. Notes appear below the table or the figure, and they provide some additional information about what we can see in the table or in the figure. What I want you to remember about tables and figures is that each table and each figure appears on a separate page. You will never have two tables or two figures on the same page. They should appear on separate pages. Now, accompanying this video is a booklet, the APA Style Quick Reference booklet, which summarizes everything that I discuss in this video for both types of papers. It includes sample papers, which you can browse and check the various details. And it also provides a link to the APA Paper Setup Guide available at the library's webpage, where you can find step-by-step instructions about how to apply everything that we talked about in this video. And at this point, I would like to thank you very much